participants are coming in, so I'll just wait 1 minute. I'll start this evening, and I'd like to welcome everybody that's joined us here this evening for our Being Ready for School for 2024 or 2025. Thank you, everybody. I will share screen. So we are very fortunate that tonight's webinar is being presented through funding, our Start Strong Pathways funding, which is money that we receive from the Department of Education in order to help us support families access early childhood services and support so that their children and yourselves are ready for school. So this is one of the opportunities that we get to use and present to you through this funding. So thank you all for joining us on this evening. My name is Belinda. I am one of your hosts for this evening, and I will be introducing our guest speakers quite soon. But just so you know, from the Australian Independent Schools New South Wales, we have Diane over here. We have, thank you, Diane. From Catholic Schools, Parramatta Diocese, we will have Lisa presenting. We will also, from the Department of Education, have Coralie and Wendy presenting. We're very fortunate to have a parent starting us off this evening quite shortly after I do the introductions, and that's T. Thank you, T. And my co-host from Early Ed is our lovely Peter. So thank you to our panellists for presenting tonight. So if I could ask Peter to start this evening with an acknowledgement to country, please.
Thanks, Belinda. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining this webinar from the country of the Darug people, who are the traditional owners of this land. I also recognise the traditional owners of the countries where you all join from today and the First Nations people present in this webinar. I pay respects to all elders past and present and emerging.
Thank you, Peter. Just so you all know, this evening's webinar, will be recorded, and you can access that recording at a later date. You're more than welcome to email us, and the email address is there on the screen at the moment, services@earlyed.com.au. Peter, possibly you could put that in the chat as well, so that if anybody did want to follow up with handouts for this evening or a recording this evening, you could email that request at that email. Just to bring to your attention, there are two options for you to communicate with us. So in the chat option, I ask that you keep that for any kind of technical difficulties that you might be having. Funny sound, frozen screen, anything like that. Please put that in the chat. However, if you have specific questions, please use the Q&A. So with the questions and answers, what we will do is you are welcome to ask those questions throughout the evening by typing it into the Q&A, and the panellists will be looking at those questions throughout the night. Some panellists will answer the questions as the evening is proceeding, but what we will do is there are questions unanswered by the end of the evening. Peter and I and the panellists will go through those questions, and depending on how much time we have, we might be able to answer them live. Then, if questions are still left unanswered, we will follow that up at a later time after the webinar via email. So please include your email if you want to, or contact us through services@earlyed.com.au. Remind us that you had a question unanswered, and we will follow that up for you. We will be running two polls this evening. They're just one answer at the beginning of the evening, and one question, and that same question at the end of the evening, just so that we can see whether the information we've provided you tonight has taken you further in your journey to get your child ready for school. There will also be a survey before the night ends, and we really ask that you give us feedback through this survey, because it's what helps us improve these webinars year in, year out. We do take your feedback on board and we do make amendments according to that feedback. So in order for us to provide these and continuously improve, we really value your feedback. So I might stop sharing and ask Peter to launch the first poll, please. So you should have a question now on your screen. How confident are you in knowing how to support your child in starting school? The options are not confident, somewhat confident, confident or very confident in supporting your child in starting school. Excellent. We have 100% answered. Peter, thank you. And it looks like a lot are somewhat confident. Some of you are not confident or confident, and a very small amount very confident. So thank you all very much for sharing that. I still have it on my screen. I might just close that. Hopefully it's gone for everybody else.
It says it's ended, so I don't know.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this evening's session is to understand ways to help your child transition to school. There are many ways that we can support our child because every family is different, every child is different, but we want to share a range of these ways to support your child tonight. We hope that you receive up-to-date information from the various school systems and from our wonderful parent team to support transition to school, and to know that there are supports available and how to access these as well. They're the main purposes for this evening. So one of the most important concepts that we go by here at Early Ed is the idea of the team around the child. We've all heard different things like it takes a community to raise a child, and the team around the child is that kind of concept. And this image shows the child is the orange little person in the center of that team. Around that child is the family. They are the people that know that child the best from birth to where they are now. And supporting that family is the team around that child as well. So the community, that could be family and friends. It could be the school as well. Your sporting communities, your church groups, anything like that. That's the community that supports the child and the family. And supporting all of them is your early intervention team as well. So that could be any therapists that are supporting your child, any medical practitioners supporting your child. And that encompasses everybody in your team that will be around you to support you and your child through this transition. So the key thing to remember is it's not just you, it's not just your child, and it's not just the school. It's anybody else that is also involved in that team to support you and your child. It's a partnership. When we talk about transition to school, I want you to remember that it's not just the term before school or the year before school. It is a lifelong process. Everything that you are doing towards teaching your child in any way, formally or informally, in an educational setting or teaching them at home, just about their own skills themselves, that's all supporting your child's transition to school. We're just fine-tuning it at the end of this year in helping you make decisions and in helping your child get ready for the next milestone. So tonight will be about helping you with that next milestone. But the transition process doesn't stop on the first day of kindergarten either. Please be mindful of your child's journey and what they're about to embark on and what you're about to embark on as well, and let it run out through the whole year. There will be more transitions after that as well, transitioning to sports groups or upper grades or high schools, etc. So transitioning is a lifelong journey. But in order for your child to be ready the team needs to be ready. Our families need to be ready. Are the family ready to let go? Are the family ready to take new things on as part of this journey? Is the early childhood service ready? Have they prepared the child? Have they prepared you and the school with information needed? Is the community ready? Are they doing what they need to do to support your child and yourself? And is the school ready? Do they have the right information so that they are ready for your child as well? And this might also be about you choosing the right school for your child as much as they are taking your child on as well. So there's a lot of people to get ready in this process, and we'll be going through that tonight as well. Peter, I don't know if you can put these links in the chat as well by any chance. But these are some additional resources that are available to you as a family to help you in this process of transitioning your child. Raising Children Network has some fabulous information, general information to support you and your child in this process. Reimagine Australia also has great information, not only for families and practitioners as well as the school. They also have a little booklet that you can use to help create your child a portfolio if you found that to be useful as well. I can see a participant's got their hand raised. Please use the Q&A if you have a question, or if it's something technical, please type that into the chat. That's Bernie and Bruce with their hands raised. And Early Ed also has a page on their website called Ready to Learn Together, which has a lot of handouts and short videos with small pieces of information, and they're translated in multiple languages as well, about preparing your child for school and again that transition to school process. So Peter's going to put those links in the chat, and these will be available if you want them after the evening by emailing us. These slides will be available to you with the links included. Okay, asking for help if you're concerned, how to access local supports. Not only can you access support through your early childhood centre, that's long daycare or preschool, family daycare maybe, or through the school, but other support options are through the early childhood, early intervention approach, so that's NDIS. Community health nurses, please don't stop taking your child to the community health nurse at 18 months. Take them every year because they will do ongoing checks and have ongoing chats with you and make sure everything is on track and you're getting the support. There are local Start Strong funded services that can also provide you with support as well, and of course your local school. Start Strong Learning Through Play is on the Early Ed website, and Peter was going to show us that. Just a bit mindful of the time as well, Peter. We might revisit that towards the end of the evening. But that has a range of free services that are available to families in supporting them and their children in the years before school. To access that is to go onto the Early Ed website, to click on the Child and Family tab, and Learn Through Play will be one of those drop-down menus. And there's the link as well, and Peter will be putting that link in the chat as well. But there's a number of free services there. There's low cost and no cost ideas of things that you can do at home, and there's free support services that you might be eligible for in accessing through Early Ed as well. So there's some of the things that are available through Start Strong. Learn to Play, Play to Learn, and Active Play, Active Learning are free ideas that you can use at home, indoor and outdoor, to help your child with their learning. My Time is a play group for parents who have children with disabilities, and it's a support play group. Ready to Learn Through Storytime gives you up to 3 free sessions of how to support your child with skills to be ready for school. And we also have our online story times every Thursday, which are free to register for. They go for roughly 20 minutes. We have a toy library, and we also have the Hannon Target Word program for children who are 2.5 and under and are late communicators but do have some social skills. That's a free program. It runs over think 7 weeks in total. Very, very valuable if you are interested with the information. Our Ready to Learn page has short videos and, like I said, short pieces of information on helping you with school readiness. So I've given you tonight's wonderful panelists. We're going to start the night off with our parent, T. So she's going to share with us her personal experiences. That will be followed by Diane from the Association of Independent Schools New South Wales, followed by Lisa from the Catholic Education Office, Catholic Diocese of Parramatta. And then from the Department of Ed, Coralie and Wendy will be presenting. Peter will show you a feedback form throughout the evening. We will give you the QR code to get your feedback from you as well. And tonight, Peter and I are here from Early Ed to help you. So I'd like to welcome T to share her personal experiences. And participants, please feel free to ask T questions in the Q&A, and we will follow that up again later on as well. So thank you, T.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so my name is T. I have 5 children. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 7. He turned 7. I have 4 still in school, 1 in a support unit, 1 in a high needs special school, and 2, 1 in high school and 1 in public school. With my 11-year-old, the transition for us was it was hard and a little bit difficult and also very emotional. He didn't start his life off very strong. He was born premature at 24 weeks, 700 grams, almost 200 days in intensive care. So we had a very tough journey with him. But then by sort of the things sort of settled down and we knew what we had to do, you know, he turned 5 and it was like, wow, you know, obviously, you know, we wanted him to attend school. And at first I didn't know where to start. But I have been with actually Early Ed for I think close to 9 years now, maybe 8 or 9 years. And I got a hold of them and they talked to me about the transition to school program which they run, which I found absolutely fantastic. I think back then the sessions were twice a week. And I used to take, and I did not honestly know how it would start for him, and especially, you know, not being nonverbal. At that time he wasn't walking, so I didn't know how things would be. But they really helped me and taught myself and my husband and my other children how it would be for our son, and just simple programs that they used to run, even just from starting to line up at the door and things like that, and you know, taking your school bag. And with that, we learned a lot of things for him. And then when it actually came time to start school, we felt it was a bit overwhelming. To be honest, I felt it very overwhelming with the paperwork, with finding someone to help me out, because I had to go to my local school counsellor, which was close to me, and getting the paperwork submitted, wanting to see the schools, making choices of what sort of schools he would attend to. And then when he did get picked for one, and going into the school, meeting the staff, and all the other things that went along with him being at a high special needs school. Getting there, obviously, and how it would work for him and for myself, him being away from us. I didn't choose to send my son to preschool or kindy by then because he had a lot of medical needs. So I just wanted to look after that at first. But I think I should have think just to help ease the progress for myself. But then yeah, he absolutely adores school, which I love. He's still getting used to the bus runs and things like that. And then yeah, so then Carl, well, 2 years later, I had my other son. He started school. Who was getting ready to go to school. I started him off at preschool in a normal preschool, just near me. And then it wasn't then until I learned when they spoke to me that there was something sort of going on, that was different for him. And I'm so glad. I am so glad that they picked it up because I thought that I had to just put him in a normal public school, but I knew he needed extra help, and I knew the local school near me couldn't offer that. And also going through another transition of getting him into a support unit, which has been absolutely amazing. I think the only hardest things for us that we found, the school he was placed in for the support unit, it was their first year running a support unit in a mainstream school. So I had my doubts thinking, they've never done this before. How are they going to, make sure my child is safe? And, if there was so much questions going on in my head, it was just, quite tough at stages. I would constantly, and from the beginning, they were fantastic. I would constantly email for questions, but how would you do this? And how would that happen for him to do this? Because he's still in a public school. Whereas I knew my other son was in a more structured, a bit more safer environment whereas my other son, I was putting him in a public school. How would he react?
5 minutes, T. Sorry.
Yeah. it's being where he is now in the support unit has been absolutely fantastic. The staffing there have been amazing since day one. One is year 5 now. My son's he's in year 5. He's in a special needs school, and the other one is year 3. And now it's transitioning, getting ready to transition for my year 5 to go into high school, which is another huge thing. I know it's like a couple of years away, but it's something that I'm starting to feel I have to plan now. He will probably stay in the same school, but because they go up to high school where he is. But then I start to think about my other son who they don't go up to high school. He'll have to, I'll have to find, a support unit, and I've had amazing support with community, with my own family, and all the staff that I have around, my children therapists and my key workers, and that are always there to help me out with questions. And I'm all about social stories. I like social stories because my little kids enjoy social stories, which is really great for my son who's autistic. And he enjoys those things. But that's pretty much I can say so
Hey, thank you so much for sharing your heartfelt personal experiences. You bring so much wealth with that personal experience, and I hope that participants can feel T's passion to her children, to her family, because she is incredibly passionate. She's a fabulous advocate. She's a wonderful support, and she's learned through her journey, and that's why we invited her, and that's what she's openly, honestly shared with us. So, T, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'd like to invite Diane and I think you're getting some claps. I can see some claps coming up on my screen, T, so that's to you. Well deserved. Diane, I'd like you to introduce yourself and take lead, please.
Thank you, and thank you, T. Yes, I will put this in slideshow. Thank you. That was a wonderful story. It was a beautiful story to hear, and I can see that you've worked so beautifully in partnership with the school as well. So thank you. Everyone, my name is Diane Hook. I'm an education consultant at the AIS, New South Wales. And I'd just like to say thank you for having me here today as well. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the many lands we're meeting on as well, and pay respects to any Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander participants who might be here tonight. Let me just move on. Here we go. Okay, I'll try to go quickly through some of these slides, but since I think I'm the first speaker, I thought I might just say we have three different education sectors. For those of you who are not aware of that already, we have the government schools, the Department of Education, and they're owned and operated by the Department of Education. They're K to 12, Kindy to 12, and I imagine, yeah, and you have a lot of, you'll be talking to that later on. As well, there's Catholic schools, owned and operated by the Catholic Church, and Catholic schools in New South Wales receive some government funding, but also charge fees. They provide education to students as well from kindergarten to year 12. Independent schools, we are non-government schools, and we're not affiliated with any religious or other organization. We do charge fees. We're managed by an independent board. All schools are managed by an independent board of directors. They provide education to students from kindy to year 12 as well. So independent schools in New South Wales, they might be co-educational, they might be single sex, they can range in size from small rural schools to large metropolitan schools. They follow the same curriculum as the department schools and Catholic education schools, and we're also subject to the same legislation. We are independent, which means we're autonomous, and we're accountable to school boards. So every school is quite different. They might have special programs, they might have their own school policies, and there might be quite a variety of services and resources as well. As of this year, there's approximately 511 independent schools and campuses in New South Wales. So if you'd like to find out a school that might be near you, we do have on our website a schools locator, and you can filter for your region and the type of school you might be interested in. And the names will show there, depending on where you happen to live. So AIS, the Association of Independent Schools, we're the peak body supporting and representing independent schools in New South Wales, and we provide guidance and support to member schools on just a range of issues. It might be curriculum, assessment, compliance, governance funding, governance and funding. And the support provided is tailored to meet individual school needs. So I'm from the Student Services team, and we support schools all over New South Wales, non-government schools, in collaborative planning, sort of working with the schools to support children in schools, making adjustments, behaviour support, student well-being, and also mental health. So the support can be in the form of professional learning or school-based consultancies, where we visit students in schools and support schools to support your child. If you'd like to enroll in an independent school, we urge you to contact the school directly. So that's slightly different to maybe some of the other processes. If you would request an enrollment package and maybe organise to visit the school. you might already have a school in mind, in which case, if you're starting next year, you are starting that transition process. But it's never too early for those of you who are looking at schools in 2025 to start making maybe visits to the school. You might have an interview with the school's enrollment staff or the principal, and that interview then is an opportunity for the school to learn more about your child and for you to ask any questions that you might have about how the school will support your child. So enrollment processes may differ from school to school. If you have a child that attends pre-kindy at an independent school, you may still be required to apply for kindergarten enrollment. So you might have to, you might speak to the principal about that. If you have a child with a disability, schools must adhere to the disability standards for education when considering enrollment for your child as well. So it's important to note that when you're looking for enrollment, the process between schools may vary. So you may be asked to participate in some additional meetings while the school is gathering information, and you might make more visits than other students, but you will always attend an orientation program as well. We do recommend sharing relevant and up-to-date information at that enrollment process, because again, you are working, you're establishing that partnership between home and school for the next 13 years for your child. And on that point of information sharing, be proactive, meet with the school early in the piece, be open and honest so that schools can organize adjustments if they're needed for your child. So there are no surprises on day one. Ask a lot of questions. Be sure you ask lots of questions about how the support is provided and what their particular ideas about inclusion happen to be as well, and philosophies. So there's a lot of different kinds of individual planning, and you mentioned a few of those as well. You might have healthcare planning for asthma or epilepsy, might be attendance, behavior support plannings, curriculum planning, and transition planning, which is, of course, is what we're talking about today. So what does that transition process look like? And it's going to vary from school to school, but it will include a regular transition process for all children, as well as possibly additional visits and time to enable your child to begin that important process of building relationships. T mentioned social stories, and video models might be really helpful at this point as well. So your child and you get to know the environment, the layout of the environment, and what the expectations are of that particular school as a kindy child. You can support this transition through that gradual exposure. Again, looking at the pictures on the website, looking at the uniforms. You also might want to ask the school to provide further resources to support your child's transition. Again, the social story, photos of teachers, maybe the classroom environment, and you might want to have some extra orientation visits as well. So as parents, there are things that you can do at home with your child to help prepare them. You can enlist them in choosing a lunchbox. Supporting them at home before school to pack that lunch or open some of those packets, which can be really difficult sometimes. Practice those personal care skills like dressing, taking off your jumper, putting on shoes, teaching your child as well how to use maybe community toilets, because they all look different in different environments. What the cubicle doors might be different and how they lock and unlock, what the urinals look like. Wearing your uniform maybe around the house, and shoes around the house so they get used to those and they're not rubbing. Practice some calming techniques as well. For times of anxiety, all kindergartners feel a bit anxious. It's a big step going from a few days of preschool to 5 days at school. So the more you can rehearse those skills at times of calm with you, the better off your child will be. Practice taking those deep breaths as well. Practice reading books together, pointing to the words as you read. You might want to read books about going to school as well. And you might create some visuals to support routines, such as getting ready for school in the morning. What does the routine look like? Maybe take some pictures, or maybe do colors help. So decide what the best way to help your child become organized might be. How can you prepare yourself as well for your child's transition to school? So you might, school is different to preschool, and in different environments have different expectations. So be prepared for that change. None of us like change, really. It can be exciting, it can be nerve-wracking, but it's all a learning process. You might start to think about what are the key differences between school and other settings that your child might attend. What's different? What's the
5
same?
minutes, Diane. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We're just about there. So what does a school day look like? What are the expectations of families at school? You may not be able to have as much access to the teacher as in early ed or preschool. Become familiar with some of that school terminology as well, like the key KLAs or key learnings areas. Schools will communicate with families in a variety of ways. So what does that look like at the school that you've chosen? Is it a book? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer phones? How will you receive information? And what can you do if you're not happy with something? Are good questions to ask as well. I'm sure I've forgotten some things, but here are some, again, some really lovely websites that you might like to dip into, and a few more there. And I thank you very much for your attention tonight, and I hope it's been somewhat helpful for you. All the best with your journeys.
Diane, thank you very much for sharing that information. You gave a lot of practical tips, which is very, very useful. So thank you for sharing those practical tips. And the key thing about one thing that really stood out to me was, I wrote it down, parents asking questions of the school when an interview, using that, and I can see T nodding, using that time to ask as much as they are interviewing you and your child. So you're interviewing them just as much, families. So ask the questions that you have, and see T reinforcing that as a parent as well. And the other thing that you said, Diane, is that sharing of information. Participants out there tonight, teachers want to know. They would rather know they can use or not use or whatever with that information than finding out later on. Because no matter how small or how big, that information could be beneficial to your child and their journey. So they're two key things that really stood out to me. Thanks for sharing that presentation, Diane. That was great.
Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, everyone.
So our next lovely guest speaker is Lisa from the Diocese of Parramatta. Lisa, thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and it's really lovely to be here as well. So I am the coordinator of the Inclusive Learning Team at Catholic Education Parramatta Diocese, and we are, in our system, we have 83 schools from K to from kindergarten to year 12. And also within our system, we have based at 3 of our mainstream schools, high support needs settings for students who have a moderate intellectual disability, often other disabilities as well. And that's a more supported setting for students who can access those settings in our mainstream settings across our diocese. We are, in our diocese, we have some specialist teams who work very closely with our schools to support students with disability and additional needs. So we have the Inclusive Learning Team, And the focus of our work is to help teachers understand the impact of disability on the individual child, and support leaders and teachers to meet and consult and collaborate with parents and the allied health professionals who work with your children, to identify all the adjustments that your child will need to ensure that they have access to learning and full participation in schools, in our system. But we also have other teams. We have a wellbeing and behaviour specialist team, an attendance team. We even have a post-school options team, which seems a long way off for all of you at the moment, but that team really works closely with families and students and teachers to prepare your children for what life will be beyond school, and make those connections and strong pathways to a really successful and purposeful life beyond school. So I've been asked to talk to you this evening about a few things. The first one is around the importance of play. And I really like this quote at the top of this screen, which says that when children play, they are more completely themselves than at any other time. They are in full control. And even when your children start school, in those foundation years of schooling in kindergarten, in year 1, there is always really structured time in our settings for developmental play. So at home, it is really important that you make that time in your child's day to enable them to play, to engage with people, to engage with you as their first teachers, with their siblings, with other peers, and all the resources that they can access through play as well. And really what play is an age-appropriate way for children to learn at their pace and at their level. So engaging with your child through play is one of the best ways, in fact, that you can prepare them for school. Play has many benefits, and I'm just going to take you through the 4 key areas of benefits and really why we continue to formalise and allow those developmental play opportunities even when children commence school. So the first is around how it benefits a child's social and emotional development. So when children play together, they are learning from each other all the time. So through cooperation and building those relationships, they learn many skills. They learn how to negotiate with each other. Sometimes, and it's not always successful, but that's all part of the learning as well. And that's what we do as parents and educators and adults. We guide them through that. They learn how to solve problems. They learn how to empathise with others and see the world from someone else's point of view. It also encourages them to build resilience when things don't go well or things go wrong. How can we encourage them to try again? It helps them develop confidence and take some risks. Things like turn taking and exploring different options. It also helps them regulate their emotions. When a child experiences success and confidence whilst they're playing, those positive chemical channels are really strengthened, and that all helps them regulate their emotions and build their resilience. When children play with each other and play with adults, it's an opportunity also for their language to develop. In talking to others, they have opportunities to refine their speech sounds through listening to others, particularly when the people that the other people that they're engaging with better models for verbal language skills. It provides opportunities for them to interact and engage in conversations or to communicate non-verbally through gesture and facial expression about shared experiences around what is happening immediately, here and now. Through that shared experience, it allows lots of opportunities to communicate with each other. It provides us with a context to ask a child about what they can see, what they can hear, smell, or feel. So it really provides an opportunity for lots of rich language, questioning and answering. And obviously, it's an opportunity to build vocabulary as well. You know, as we're pointing to things and handing things to children, children are touching things. It's a great opportunity for us to start naming and labeling different objects. Another benefit is the cognitive development, learning, thinking. Okay, so children, whilst they're engaging with those learning opportunities, are having opportunity for that independent thought process. They get to prioritize, you know, things, items, the order of things, choices. It helps them develop attention and focus as they engage in a play activity that holds their interest. This is the beginning of children being able to focus and concentrate on something for an extended period of time. And these are skills that are really valuable to prepare children for when they go to school. They get to inquire about their world and make connections. They are able to be creative. It's also an opportunity to develop some of those skills around number and letters and sounds, you know, counting objects, putting things in order, organizing shapes, learning about colors. Play enables all those opportunities. We provide them through play a safe environment for them to take risks. It's an opportunity for them to explore a personal interest and to explore, discover, question, and appreciate their world. Another area that is benefited from play is a child's physical development. So through play, it encourages the child to be more active. And, you know, through those more physical games, it helps develop those gross motor skills, running, jumping, catching, throwing, helps coordination and balance, helps the child develop some strength and agility. But also it's an opportunity for the development of our fine motor skills, more precise skills of using our hands to cut, to thread, to trace, to draw. And again,
5 more minutes, Lisa.
Thank you. Very valuable skills for school. So all of the skills that I just named are all very critical skills that we need for life and school. And even parallel play, you know, depending on your child's developmental stage and age, parallel play is also an important step because it builds communication skills and enables children to interact with others without having that pressure to play directly. This is a link to a website that Catholic Schools New South Wales has provided around learning through play. So I've on the next 2 slides in this presentation will be shared with you from the Early Ed team. This gives you some examples and suggestions around some really good play activities that you can engage with your child at home. But really I'll just pick out a couple of them, getting down to your child's level when you play with them, and finding opportunities to ask those open-ended questions, which enable your child to have an opportunity to provide through their verbal skills, or even through their gesture and communication. It gives them an opportunity to answer beyond yes and no. Okay, there's just some other examples. Find opportunities to turn off the screens and devices to reduce those background noises and distractions, and provide children opportunity to engage in those active play skills. One of the other things that is really important is establishing some good daily routines to prepare your child for school. This enables your child to predict what's going to happen next. And T talked about the value of those, visual aids such as social stories, but even photograph and video aids of showing your children different routines, photos and videos of your child successfully completing some of those tasks and routines. A weekly schedule, even preschool, your child will engage in different activities maybe during the week, and a weekly visual schedule helps your child to understand what is happening each day of the week. It's really important, as we do at school, to prepare children for changes in routine. And really importantly, research shows that sticking to regular times for waking up and going to bed each day is really important as well. And we've also mentioned around the value of reading with your child every day and making it a daily habit. Developing independence. This is really important. It enables children to be active participants in their own learning. It's a way of building a child's self-identity, self-esteem and confidence, and it allows children to feel a sense of control in times of stress, change and uncertainty. So, all your children are unique individuals, and, it's about building independence where you can, based on your child's developmental stage. And it's about providing opportunities to move them along their pathway of skill development and learning. So, breaking tasks down into smaller steps, supporting your child to follow repeated routines, rehearsing and practicing these skills in a fun way, and obviously providing lots of praise and when children are successful. So on the slides, it just gives you a few tips around encouraging independence before your child starts school, where they can. We talked about practicing wearing uniforms, managing those tricky zippers and buttons, thinking about those simple clothing choices that will help your child be more independent when they start school. Practicing some of those really important personal care skills will really hold them in good stead for when they start school. And obviously your children are all different, and based on the impact of their disability, we will work with you and your child and the allied health professionals to determine what support your child needs in all these key areas as well, and take that into consideration with the adjustments. But
That's time, sorry.
That's okay. All right, so just more tips around eating, organisation and responsibility. At the end of the slide deck, you will find some specific information around enrolling in a school in Parramatta Diocese. All the information and links are available there for you to access. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa, for more valuable information. The importance of play is such a big key message. And as Lisa did cover in her presentation, so I just wanted to point out how it covers all aspects of your child. So your child is whole, and we refer to that as holistic learning. The way they learn through their social skills will impact their cognitive skills. Their physical skills will impact their cognitive skills. All parts of our learning is interrelated, and play enables all of that to come together. We may still grow at different stages in different areas at different rates, but play seems to bring the child as a whole in their learning nicely together. And there's so many opportunities for learning through play. You referred to different play ideas, Lisa. I just wanted to remind the participants of the Start Strong page that's available through the Early Ed website. It offers a lot of play ideas that you can access, and it offers supports that we can give you in that process. It's actually one of the Start Strong goals. So it's a New South Wales Department goal to promote the importance of play to families. That's how important it is. So thank you, Lisa. So Peter is kindly showing you the Start Strong Learn Through Play page. You know, that's great, Peter. But if you could also now put up the feedback QR code, which I ask participants to fill in quickly before we move on to the Department of Education. Again, that gives us opportunities to continuously improve our webinars so that we are catering for your needs as participants. Families, you've been really quiet in the Q&A, so please feel free to put some questions in there. And I'm really sad to hear that this particular family is having experiences in not being able to get therapists into school. Unfortunately, that is the case across some schools. But like I said, that seems to vary. From our experience with working schools across all systems, it seems to vary depending on the school itself and their policies and practices. I'm sorry your experiences haven't been as positive. You can use the QR code with your phone, and that will give you direct access to the feedback survey. I think that there is also a link that Peter will be able to put in the chat if you wanted to access the feedback survey later. If not this evening, then later on throughout the week would be fine as well. Lisa did have other commitments to tend to tonight, so she's gone off to those commitments. I didn't unfortunately get the chance to thank her specifically for the presentation, but I will. If you have any questions specific to Lisa or in regards to Catholic schools, feel free to put them in the Q&A and we will follow them up with her. So thank you. Okay, I am now going to share screen for Wendy and Coralie for the Department of Education. And you can just start introducing yourselves and I will get the slideshow up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffiths and my colleague is Coralie Pratt. Belinda talked about the community around your child. We are part of that in the school. So the school system has the team within the school, which consists of the executive, the school counsellor, the learning and support teachers, the classroom teachers and specialist teachers. And then Coralie and I are part of that team around the school. So when the school need additional support for a child or when they're starting to talk about a specific placement for a child with a disability, it's such as T spoke about, we're the people that they come to. Coralie?
My role involves supporting families and schools and children through the transition process. There are 9 of us throughout the state and we all cover quite large areas, and mine is Metropolitan North. It's a wonderful job because I get to meet early childhood staff and observe children in their early childhood settings, and that gives us lots of information to enable teachers to plan appropriate adjustments or plan for the interests of the children who are coming into their class. I'd like to read the Acknowledgement of Country, the New South Wales Department of Education. We recognise the ongoing custodians of the lands and waterways where we work and live. We pay respect to elders past and present as ongoing teachers of knowledge, songlines and stories. We strive to ensure every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learner in New South Wales achieves their potential through education.
Thanks, Belinda. Starting school, we have a similar site to the independent schools. So it's School Finder you can search for, or this will be available in the chat, I'm sure. You just type in, you want a primary school, you type in your address and it will tell you what your local school is. Once you've identified that, and you probably already have, then you need to enrol. You can enrol through the online application form, or you can download a paper form, or you can go to the local school. Just a reminder that all children must be in compulsory schooling by their 6th birthday. Children can start kindergarten at the beginning of the year if they turn 5 on or before the 31st of July that year. Students should start school at the beginning of the school year, so you can't wait until the end of the year or September when your child turns 6. They have to start at the beginning. Contact your local school to discuss enrolment procedures if you need to. Everything you need to know is on the website and the link is in the handout. Any questions can be answered by your local school. The other thing that you may want to consider, particularly if your child has a disability or is quite young, is an exemption from enrolment. So you may be granted an exemption in specific circumstances and where the Executive Director of Education considers it to be in the best interests of the child. You apply for that through your local school. They will have the paperwork for you to complete in the first place, and then they will complete some of the paperwork. The 2 reasons that you may be granted an exemption from enrolment are age. So if your child turns 6 on or after the 1st of October or later in the year and is engaged in full-time preschool education at an accredited preschool for the remainder of that year and is enrolled for the following year as well, then you may be granted an exemption. The other reason you may be granted an exemption is on the grounds of health, learning or social needs, or a disability of a child, necessitating the continuation of an individual program supported by medical specialists and for not longer than 6 months after their 6th birthday. Next slide. Oh, sorry, I think I'm a slide behind here. Next slide.
I love this picture because the notion of a child having to be ready for school is a bit of a past impression. In the Department of Education, we take all children, we make ourselves ready for the children who are coming, and that's the importance of sharing information with the school you're interested in. Everybody, all the presenters have talked about the importance of sharing information, because that enables schools and teachers in particular to start planning early so that children's needs are catered for from day one. And a lot of my job involves visiting preschools and talking to parents, particularly of children with anxiety or disability or other needs, that we presume that all children are ready to learn, and we're going to enable them to learn. Next slide, please. And this is part of the information. This enables parents or families and early childhood educators to share information in a more formal way. You may be familiar with the Transition to School statement. It's been around for quite a while. The early childhood educators can complete their section, which involves some personal details, qualities and abilities, children's feelings and expectations about starting school, and the children can put in a drawing that they've done about how they feel about starting school. Families can complete their details, what you'd like your children, expectations for your children, what are their interests, and what are some strategies that you think would help teachers to know to support their learning. And then section F gives consent for information to be passed on to the school. But it's been very useful for schools, and I think most early childhood services are completing transition to school statements now. Next slide, please.
So you've probably already heard of Best Start, particularly if you have older children already at school. In the first few weeks of school, your child will be completing the Best Start assessment one-on-one with their teacher. Different schools arrange how they do that differently. You'll find out how that's happening at your local school. The purpose of this is to allow schools to understand and then to meet your child's educational needs where they're at. Not your child being ready, but us being ready for your child. The Transition to School statement and the Best Start Kindergarten give the teachers that information that they need. And that also the Best Start gives the teacher a starting point. This is where your individual child is at. Let's start from there. The next slide.
Just before we move,
yes,
sorry,
go, Coralie.
Can you just go back, Belinda, please? Thanks. There is actually on the departmental website, or you Google Best Start Assessment New South Wales DET, and you can watch a video about the Best Start Assessment. It's a cartoon presentation, but it's quite clear in describing the purpose of the assessment and the procedure. Thank you.
And I spoke about this at the beginning. Your child's team is about to grow in that community. So learn who your child's team is. Learn who are the best people to talk to. Learn who you need to talk to if your child has additional support needs in particular. The school may then contact us if they need it, but hopefully most supports are provided from within the school. If your child has additional support needs, on the next slide, there are specialist programs within the Department of Education, and we also heard that there are similar services available through the independent schools and through the Catholic system. In the Department of Education, you can access those resources through planning ahead. The school needs to know what's happening for your child to be able to be ready, as Coralie said, and everybody has said. Please be open and honest with them. Sometimes parents are frightened that their child will be labelled, but in fact, it just provides, the more we know, the more appropriately and accurately we can target supports for your child. Your preschool or other learning childhood service can support the transition to school. The schools can request the support form, and Coralie can visit the school to help to provide as much information as we can. There are a couple of supports that may be of interest to people. One is integration funding support, commonly known as IFS. So for students with a moderate to severe disability, and a diagnosed disability, the school can apply for integration funding support, which is additional funding to provide a learning support officer to work with your child in their classroom. We also have itinerant teachers who support specific needs, such as the vision teachers and our hearing teachers. And Coralie also works on early integration, transition to school. She can work with the school to provide information and ideas on how to best support your child. School counsellors are a key member of the school's learning and support team who work in consultation with the teachers, the school, the parents and carers, and other agencies to improve student learning and, where necessary, access additional resources. Schools may also apply for additional support from us. What do I need to do if my child has additional needs? Make an appointment with your local school principal to discuss your child's needs as soon as possible. Take with you any medical or therapeutic assessments, visa documents, and do this as soon as possible so that the school can be ready for your child, particularly if there are, there may be infrastructure things that need to happen at the school, and that all takes time.
5 minutes, Wendy.
Thank you. Next. The school learning and support team assist families to submit an access request form. This is the form that's on there. The school do the form. You will need to contribute some of the things like medical documentation, reports from health teams, that sort of thing. But generally speaking, the school does the form. It's called an access request form. And what that access request form can request is the IFS, which is the additional funding, but it's also available for, or the form that's used to gain access to those classes that Tia was talking about, the support classes within a mainstream school or the special schools. Once the access request has been received, there is an independent panel that looks at the requests, and based on the recommendations of the panel, parents may be offered a placement for their child. Parents can accept or decline the placement offered. Placement panel for support classes and special schools are held twice a term, in weeks 3 and week 7, but access requests for integration funding support are on an ongoing basis, so that can be at any time. Thank you.
Again, we have in the Department of Education, we also understand the importance of play in developing skills, social skills, intellectual skills, problem-solving skills, and the focus is on continuity of learning from preschool to school. In the first term of kindergarten, children are starting to acquire some of the early literacy and numeracy skills, like sounds through explicit teaching, but a lot of the learning comes from play-based learning. And the department provides a lot of training for staff in what play-based learning looks like and how it can have goals. Teachers may plan goals for the play or allow the children to manipulate materials or explore play themselves. Next slide, please. So really the core focus in kindergarten, I think, is being happy, developing relationships, practicing social and communication skills and problem-solving skills through play-based learning, learning to be part of a larger group, sharing materials, attention, taking turns, following routines that may be school-wide as well as class-wide, but in kindergarten there is a lot of support to enable children to do that. Completing tasks, adapting to larger groups, further developing literacy and numeracy concepts and fine motor skills. But my favourite is for children to, by the end of term 1, feel confident and competent in their own skills. But last slide, I think. This is a really important one, I think, and Wendy chose some fabulous expressions for her characters. What are you going to expect in the first weeks of school? We all know how traumatic transitions can be. Just think back when you started a new job or you moved house, the sorts of feelings you had, the excitement, but anxiety. Are you going to be able to find your way around? How can you ask for help? They're the sort of things that children have to learn as they go along, and it can be very stressful for them. And I had a conversation with the early intervention teachers who suggest that during the first week or couple of weeks of school, clear all your therapies, your after school activities, and just allow your children to relax when they come home from school. Don't ask them probing questions. If they're anxious about something, it will come out either in a tantrum or while you're driving them home. They'll say something like, I really missed you today, or I couldn't find something. And just allow them to find their own way and to have plenty of time, downtime for them, rather than continuing after school activities just for a couple of weeks, and they'll probably settle in. And you're going to do the next one, Wendy.
I am. And so finally, just look after you, because as much as they're having a big change, so are you. All the focus is on your child at this exciting time, and for many parents, it's just as exciting, and filling your days will be easy. But we want to acknowledge that this can also be an emotional time for parents. While we trust that the school will care for your child and keep them safe, it can be difficult to let go. You think you're okay, and then something may set you off. If your child is sad or finding it hard to separate from you, or if your child goes off too happily, that can be just as traumatic. My own daughter got out of the car on her first day of kindergarten, and as I got out, she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm coming in." "Well, why would you come in?" "I'm going to school." Very distressing for me. She was okay, but I was distressed. If you're feeling emotional about your child starting school for any reason, make sure you plan what you're going to do on that first day and in the first few weeks. If you're not at work, organise to have some coffee with friends, or have a shopping day, or just a quiet day at home with a good movie and nobody to interrupt. Do whatever supports your well-being, but look after you too. And the last slide. I've included the Macquarie Park phone number there, but that will get you through to any of the local schools, not only the Macquarie Park schools. And I've also added on Belinda's slide, the generic Mac Park email address, and they will be able to respond with the appropriate school, or forward that to the appropriate school or appropriate network. All the best, everybody. It's a very exciting and fun time.
Thank you both, Wendy and Coralie, for that presentation as well. And we've got some hands being raised for, some hands being clapped, which is lovely as well for all our presenters. The importance of taking care of yourselves. What a great way to finish, because yes, all our focus and attention is on our children, and yes, with good reason. This is what, it is about them, but you are a part of your child's life and part of your child's journey. So that's such a good point to finish off on. the importance of looking after yourself as well. And I remember with my first child starting school, I was holding it together until somebody just kindly looked at me and said, "How are you?" And that's all it took for me, and I broke down. Luckily, I wasn't with my child at that time, but yes, Wendy, it is such an emotional time for parents as well. The only other point that really stood out to me for that is how tired the children will be at the start of that week, that term. I suppose families, it's like you starting a new job or moving a new house. You're getting used to a whole new experience in a new location with different people, different way to get there, come home, different hours, different expectations. It can be overwhelming for us as adults. This is how it could potentially feel for children as well. So yes, quieten it down for your child at the beginning. Look after yourself in that process, families. There are 2 questions that have yet to be answered, and one of them is, do all schools, independent, Catholic and public, do the Best Start assessment, or are there different systems outside of the public system? Can any of the panelists answer that? Do all schools do the Best Start assessment?
I don't know.
No? Diane's saying, I think Diane's shaking her head.
No, independent schools don't do a Best Start assessment. No. I
Okay.
don't know about Catholic.
Yeah, I'm not too sure of that either.
The department developed the materials and then they've since revised them, so it must be departmental only.
I'm guessing it is too, because when my children went to a Catholic school, they didn't do the Best Start assessment. There was a separate interview process that was done as well. So thank you for that.
Probably a similar process. I'm just saying there's probably a similar process because all schools want to know where your child's at and what their starting point is. So I'm sure there is something. Best Start has been across New South Wales schools for a few years now and seems to have been adopted with open arms because it does give a clear idea of where your kids are operating.
Thank you for that. Somebody else has said, my son loved to play, but isn't so great at sitting still at group time and listening. Are there any tips for this, or is it too early to worry about this? Again, I'm going to open this to the panelists. I am going to say, if you're concerned about it, it's never too early to think about it. Whether or not you have to worry about it, I can't really tell you. It depends on the degree. But if it's on your mind, it's probably something worth giving attention to in some way. I don't have your details. I'm not too sure where you're from, but if you contact Early Ed directly at the services@earlyed.com.au email, we can also put you in touch with some resources and give you some tips to your personal circumstance. But panelists, if there is anything that you would like to add in regards to this, please do.
Your child would not be alone. Lots of children wriggle around, call out. Fidget toys are really good. Most kindergarten classrooms have behavioural expectations for group times, just some little reminders of sitting with your mouth closed and not calling out, and it's not a huge issue in schools, and most group times have interactive activities, lots of music, perhaps a video, story reading that will capture your child's imagination.
A lot of schools are also having what they call brain breaks, which are little breaks throughout the day, not just at recess and lunch, but maybe once an hour or in between sessions. I think it varies across schools. Or movement breaks is the other thing that they're called, where a bell or a timer will go off and the children will have 5 or 10 minutes, for example, to run around the yard, supervised by teachers, of course, but the whole class comes out, they get the chance to move, get that energy out, and then they come back to class and they're able to refocus and continue with their learning. So that's quite common throughout all school systems now as well. If there's nothing else to add to that,
Then-
oh yes, go Wendy.
No, I was going to look at the next question.
Oh yes, please
Preempted
go
you,
ahead.
sorry,
The
Belinda.
homework in kindergarten. Yes, lovely. Go ahead.
There certainly isn't a rule about homework. Schools sometimes provide homework because children have heard from older siblings that they want homework or they need to do homework because they're at school. But often it's a reader, it's practicing their sight words. It's those sorts of things that you can incorporate into play in the afternoon. And for sight words, for example, I wrote them on train carriages that I'd cut out. And we had an engine with my son's name on it, and the older children would rearrange them to make sentences, and he'd get excited when the train was in the wrong order and try and read them all. So turn it into a game as much as you can. If your child is stressed about homework, or you are stressed about homework, because that's just as difficult a thing to navigate, talk to your child's teacher, and it may be time that they need a break from homework. Or it may be, that your homework time is to do a chore. Maybe they have to count out the knives and forks for the setting of the table. So they're doing something cerebral, but they're also just participating in the family. I personally don't think homework in kindergarten is necessary at all. But that's a personal thing.
Reading a book together and talking about the book is enjoyable family time, plus a bit of familiarity with text.
Absolutely. And as the years go on, don't do their homework for them, families.
You might get it wrong.
You might get it wrong, one thing for sure. And the other thing, teachers would rather see that children are struggling with the work and can't do it for some reason, and then they'll learn what that reason is by talking to you, than it going hidden and put under the radar because you're doing it for them, thinking, oh, they're going to get in trouble if they don't do it. No, you will get into more trouble for doing it for them, because it's stopping the teachers learning where your child is at and what they're challenged with. They might be challenged with the content, or they might feel under pressure, or they may not be independent learners. They might need some more one-to-one guidance. Without letting your child show that by not doing your homework, the teachers may not get to learn that and then support that need. So that's another thing for the future. When homework does come in, please don't do it for them.
Important to communicate that with the teacher too. And if this is your first child at school, sometimes it can be tempting to catch that teacher at the door when the children are arriving, or catch them in the afternoon. Better to make a time with them so that you can actually sit down and focus on your child and what information you want to share, or advice that you want, or changes that you would like to see.
Absolutely. So there are questions answered. Thank you for all the participants who have given little claps and little messages and asked those questions. It's really, really helpful. Thank you to everybody who, did we do a final poll, Peter? No, okay, we might run that final poll while I'm thanking everyone for being here and sharing your evening with us. An hour and a half is a long time, so thank you for staying and attending, and I really hope the information that you got was useful. To our fabulous panelists, Diane, thank you. Lisa has had to move on. We thank her, and then obviously Wendy and Coley, thank you for being here tonight. A big special thank you to T, our parent presenter. Again, your personal experiences are so valuable to share with other parents, so thank you so much, T. Yeah, thank you. And my fabulous co-host, Peter, thank you for having our back in the background there. You really kept things going, very valuable. It's great working with you. Participants, again, thank you very much for your little claps and your loves and for answering the poll and these questions. It really helps us with our ongoing learning. Don't be afraid to contact us if you have any questions that you think of at a later time or date. We will follow that up for you. Go and have a wonderful evening with your families and enjoy this journey. All the best to you all.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, good luck. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.